Good morning. Today I want to talk a little bit about what meditation means to me. I see meditation as meaning many different things, but first off, meditation is different kinds of ancient tools that have been given to us from long time ago. They've been passed down for a long time, and they are tools for mastering ourselves, to discover who we are and to have more self-control, more awareness, more ability to be all the potential for us to be. It's kind of like a mapping out of what it means to have a human experience and how to kind of maximize it. So meditation can mean many different things, and they all have to do with becoming more of ourselves, more aware, and progressing. So I really find that if I do meditation every single day and I seek to make it meaningful and I seek to make it deep and genuine, and I look for it to be more than it was the last time I did it, I look for growth and an improvement, that it doesn't really matter so much what kind of meditation I'm doing. I'll be kind of drawn to the different meditations that are helpful for different things as I'm exposed to them, but it's more important that I'm looking to have them be as genuine as possible, because there's no point in doing a routine that I don't feel that I'm benefiting from. I think it's very common to feel like just trying is enough, but in meditation, trying is not really where we want to be. Trying with our heart, if we're practicing really being enthusiastic about something that we want, then that's a good form of trying. But if we're just trying in the sense of like, oh, here's the time where I spend 10 minutes doing this, it's good to be building up a regular time and the discipline to do that. But I would consider that routine practice, discipline practice, just schedule training. It's not quite meditation yet, but it's the first step, because when we are able to set aside a certain amount of time every day to do something, that is a form of worship, that's a form of prayer, that's a meditation in itself, just being able to set aside a little bit of time or a lot of time every day to do something that's important for us. So that is the foundation. I was first drawn to asana and just the way it made my body feel better, so I was drawn to it more and more, and it wasn't difficult for me to set up an hour and then an hour and a half within the first year of being exposed, because I loved it so much. So my basis was from doing an hour and a half of asana, and more realizing that shavasana, doing some visualization meditations and some breathing meditations, but just having my spine be in full alignment and be fully aware of that sensation and experience and really rest into that was the thing that was benefiting me the most. The stretching and moving was allowing my body to become really amazing. I was becoming super limber, and just my body felt great all the time. I didn't feel sore or tired that much. But more and more I realized that just like having my spine be relaxed and doing awareness meditations was really what I was benefiting from. And then eventually I found out about more chanting and different kinds of breath work, and how it can be a really dynamic experience, how meditation can really involve a lot of our different senses. It can use our cardiovascular, it can use our vibration or vocal cords, as well as our awareness, as well as physical movements and mudras, and there's a lot to it. The more I find different ways to integrate aspects of my being into my meditations, the more I feel they're real in those different ways. So if I can be sweating and moving and focusing my attention and imagining and chanting, and doing calling in different aspects of myself, calling to my higher self, if I can really be in all these different realms, opening up my empathetic body to my feeling, opening up my psychic body to just what my mind is receptive to receiving, I can just basically magnify and make my meditations more potent by increasing all these things, by folding in all of these things and increasing the potency of the meditation. So I would definitely encourage anybody who's curious at all just to play around, try different styles of meditation, because when you find a style that you really like, it becomes much more easy to do this all the time, especially if there's a support group of people doing it and you enjoy plugging into that. So I really enjoy all the benefits that meditation has brought to my life. It pretty much has helped every aspect of my life, and has gotten to the point where it's the most interesting thing in my life. It allows me to do everything better. It allows me to see the universe more, so it's what I find myself wanting more and more. So at this point, I would say if we can all be meditating every single day, this is probably the most, single most helpful thing we can do. I hear a lot of questions about what can we do if the system is so difficult, and so few people are waking up, and it's still really, really challenging to even talk about this kind of stuff in any kind of general setting. Just meditating and expanding awareness of meditation and exploring what meditation can mean. So as I mentioned earlier, meditation is great when you're folding in lots of things, but it can be just simple things. Taking the time to sit down and look at trees blowing in the breeze and feeling that, that's theta wave. So if you can bring that feeling when you get up and go do the next thing, bring that feeling of those trees in the breeze to your next activity, that's bringing meditation into your daily life from the meditative practice. So that's a great one. I teach that in class fairly frequently because it's such a good one. Imagining ourselves as other things can be another great meditation, another awareness meditation, empathy, psychic awareness. So if you see a plant that you like or a tree, you're hanging out with your dog, you can just imagine yourself as that plant or as that tree or as that dog, and just imagine looking out through those eyes or experiencing that experience of like always reaching towards the sun and always like growing and reaching down for water in the earth and reaching up towards light in the sun. So we can learn a lot about natural law and everything around us and the experience of being by playing with experiencing other forms of being. Just the kinds of meditations are just, there's so many different. Pranayama is all about the breath work meditation, so these are breathing in specific ways that allowed us to expand our consciousness and modify our cellular structure slightly by different gaseous levels and absorb more prana. There's just there's things that science doesn't have a whole lot of detailed names for, that just kind of everywhere. We call air a certain mixture of gases, so this stuff, it doesn't fit into that certain mixture of gases, but when we breathe a certain way, we essentially absorb this stuff that's everywhere in the world or everywhere in the universe. And it feeds us because we are of it. We are of starlight and we are of stardust, and then there's stuff in the ether that feeds us, and so this is why there's a yogic path for not eating. You just really focus on absorbing the ether and starlight, our sunlight, and connecting with the earth, because the earth has a lot to offer as well. So other forms of meditation, the chanting, that I really enjoy the chanting because it's very vibratory, so that's a very physical way to interface with myself and the immediate surroundings. Really practicing lowering my voice as much as I can, so I have that deep resonance that allows it to vibrate through my body, so I feel it even more. And when I have my posture and my alignment all set up with my spine and my neck and my jaw, then those deep vibrations, really, I can feel them all the way up and down my spine, up and down my brain, and so I can really feel my nervous system be activated by that. So that's really great, the deep vibrations. I'm always trying to stretch lower. I'm always stretching my voice lower and lower and trying to get stable and more stable with lower notes, because the more deep that vibration is, the further it goes. Other forms of awareness meditation. So forever just practicing self-examination. This is the one that's been talked about in many different ways. I like to call it self-examination because it makes it seem really clear to me. But this is when the classical contemplation of our thoughts and our feelings, when they say experience your thoughts and feelings and let them go, examine them as they come up and then release them. This is the basic self-awareness meditation. So this is where basically become like OCD about every single thought and feeling we have, but we don't let anything distract us. So we just take one thought or feeling and we start hitting it from every angle. We're like, what did that mean? Did that mean that? Okay, what if that means that? And it's not so much like an unconscious thing, like a spinning. It's a conscious thing, like, okay, process of elimination. We got this one. Okay, no. Is it this one? Okay, maybe. Okay, is it this one? Is it these two together? And we just, every thought and feeling we have, we just attack it ruthlessly. We don't stop until we really feel comfortable and confident that we've really explored it, and we feel different about it, and we feel more educated about it, and then we sign off on it temporarily, move on to the next one. But I've spent hours just on one thought or one feeling because I had so much, and I didn't want to just move on. I wanted to finish it. Being in nature, being in supportive of environments for this really helps. Being in toxic environments makes it very challenging to do this because it makes it seem painful. So, like, reviewing our thoughts and our feelings might feel a little bit scary or dangerous. And if we're in an environment that's toxic, where people are, trained to hurt each other physically or emotionally and psychologically, like say and do mean things as part of the social norms, then it's more difficult to do self-review because it's just a tender thing. But the more we spend time with ourselves and build up really good rituals with ourselves and spend more time in nature, then we basically just remember how to be self-analytical and how to do this process with ourselves, because it allows us to be free. We're resolving how we think and how we feel about different things, and instead of having all these unmet needs around examining our thoughts and our feelings, we're taking the time to examine our thoughts and feelings, so we're resolving the things as they come up. And I think I've heard different masters say that, yeah, that's a whole path to enlightenment, just doing that, just self-examination, continually examining our thoughts and our feelings. That's a path to now, and that's a path to our higher self, because we're continually examining, exploring, and slaying everything that is, we're attached to but really isn't us once we clear it out of our space. So that's another classic meditation. There are just so many different kinds of meditation. Walking meditation, so finding a real balance in the stride and the movement and alignment, making sure you have a really good posture, and finding the balance of the sway. So it takes very little effort to move. Once you start walking, then you come up with a certain sway. There's a horizontal sway with the hips and the shoulders, and once you get it all balanced, then it becomes very gentle and very easy and rhythmical. It encourages a meditative state, and then you can practice with being in the back of your head is much easier, and being in the looking through the third eye is much easier when you're doing this kind of a walk. They complement each other. So there's walking meditations, or just being very slow and still, kind of like a Tai Chi style walking, of just being very slow and intentional walking, and just learning and observing what it's like to be highly conscious and move very slow like that, and just observe every little detail. And there's just all kinds of things. Qigong is another form of really activating meditation, where you're doing little bits of energy work and movement and circulatory stimulation. And it tends to be very effective very quickly, because when you're getting cardiovascular with energy work, you're combining the two things. It's very activating. And then Nam Yoga, I was really inspired by Nam Yoga. It's highly activating because it's including so many different components. Again, with the cardiovascular and the stimulation and the movement and the chanting, and often a little bit of working out and a little bit of really getting in the body and using the body as we're doing this, like breath of fire in all different poses to get the body really used to doing breath of fire in different ways, and doing awareness meditations and breath work in sequence with the chanting and the movements. So Nam is really compared to any other style of yoga or meditation, Nam is one of the more rich and really satiating and filling of the meditations that I've tried. Although the self-awareness one, just the self-reflection one, is probably equally as potent, because that just dives straight into the core. But oftentimes we're not quite ready just to dive into the core right away, so it's nice to practice a number of different techniques until we get more familiar with working with ourselves, and have some support overcoming some basic blockages before we're ready just to say, okay, I want to spend an hour and a half of my free time just diving into one feeling, because it's a big feeling, and once I get it done, it's going to be great. We often have to feel some more experiential and tangible improvements with our relationship with these processes, because we don't necessarily just want to dedicate an hour and a half before we really have a sense of how it's going to work or what we're looking for. So all these different paths to meditation are wonderful. There's so many available now. We can just go out and be exposed to new kinds of meditation and new kinds of thinking all the time. We can look on the post-it boards on our local grocery stores and online for classes and workshops and seminars. There's just so much access to this this kind of information. I think Gaia TV is a channel, like basically their own version of YouTube that just does all kinds of meditation and yoga and spiritual stuff. So access to this kind of information is super easy now. There's people teaching classes on virtually everything, so it's really fun to play with and get insight, because different cultures and different ways of thinking have different insights, and they allow us to learn new concepts and play with new ideas. I really like focusing on creating my meditation out of all the things that I love. So the things that I want to add to my daily routine, like, oh, I really like the feeling of doing that, and even just 2 minutes of my routine, I'm going to add that to my daily routine. So what I do, my daily routine is basically built out of the things that I find have helped me the most and that I enjoy the most. And I kind of do a review every once in a while and see if I'm still enjoying everything, or if there's something I want to add something and maybe replace something, or always trying new things every once in a while to see if I find something that's more fun or helps me in a new way. So fun and playful. The dedication comes from just the pure joy and love of it. So just deciding I want it took a little while, and then once I really proved to myself that I wanted it by trying really hard for long enough, then eventually the love just took over, kicked in. Now it's like I have a working relationship with my practice. So it's not just if I'm doing it or not doing it or falling off. I have like a constant relationship with it. So, if I'm feeling resistant to it, I'm acknowledging that, and, maybe take half a day off from it, and on the weekends do a different pacing. I don't do like a whole bunch right away in the morning every weekend, although sometimes I do. So having a conscious dialogue and not just feeling like I'm either there or I'm not, it's a constant process, and trying to stay with that process as much as possible. Alright, well, it is a beautiful Sunday morning here, and I hope you're having a wonderful time, and I will talk more about meditation later. Have a wonderful morning.